Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's PC Gaming News Recap. Today we go over how Bloodlines 2 was almost cancelled and frankly may still be in the future. There's a new Splinter Cell game in production which may or may not be exciting depending on how you're feeling about Ubisoft. God of War is coming to PC, Elden Ring got delayed, and the new Call of Duty anti-cheat was leaked. There's a few other stories I'll briefly touch on as well, and of course I'll let you know about this week's new releases. Alright, and with that, let's go ahead and jump into this week's top stories. According to a recent interview with Paradox CEO Frederick Wester, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 was nearly cancelled this year. In the interview, he said, "When we lifted the game from the original developer, we took a long look at whether we should cancel it or continue development. We were actually prepared to stop production completely, but got a pitch we thought was convincing enough to continue." He went on to say that they have high hopes that this will be a good game in the end and will meet players' expectations. Now, when he mentions lifting the game from the original developer, he's referring to news from earlier this year that Paradox was pulling the developer, Hardsuit Labs, away from production. Or in other words, they would no longer be making the game. They also announced that the original planned release date of 2021 would be delayed. Apparently, what didn't make headlines back then was that they almost canceled the game entirely. As of now, Paradox hasn't revealed which new studio is handling development, just that, according to Wester, it is a very reputable and talented developer. What's so interesting about this story is that Bloodlines 2 seemed nearly finished. At the very least, it was clearly far along in development. Like I said, they originally planned to launch the game in 2021. In fact, there's quite a bit of gameplay footage right here on YouTube from various demos they've had and conventions that the game was at. As far as we can tell, they had finished quite a bit of Bloodlines 2, enough to at least put it in a somewhat playable state. If that is in fact the case, it makes the events of this past year and a half just that much crazier. All of this is unfortunate news given how beloved the original Bloodlines is. I know fans of the franchise have been eagerly anticipating this sequel for quite some time, but honestly, things started looking rough as early as the middle of 2020 when we learned that the game's narrative lead had been fired, which was followed by its creative director getting fired, and followed again by the entire studio making the game basically being fired. It is just crazy stuff. Hopefully everything comes together in the end. They finish and release Bloodlines 2, and it turns out to be a good game. Signs appear to be pointing in the other direction, but we'll have to see. Also, do you remember Vampire the Masquerade Battle Royale spin-off, Blood Hunt? Well, that game launched into early access this past September, and it got a fairly mediocre reception. It kind of came and went. I never ended up touching on it too much after its release. It seems like one of the biggest issues is the game's performance. It just doesn't run well for many, which is a real shame. I did get an early look at the game in this year, and I thought it was decent enough. Like, it had some cool ideas. I'm not completely tired of Battle Royale games, and I like the vampire theme and setting, but yes, even back then, performance was a big issue that I mentioned. Well, evidently that just hasn't improved. I do hope that they iron this out. The franchise in general, Vampire the Masquerade, is having a really hard time right now. I know as well that when Blood Hunt was first revealed, there were a lot of fans of the Vampire Masquerade franchise that were quite upset, fearing that this game would detract from Bloodlines 2. For one, it's worth noting that they're completely different developers. Blood Hunt was being made and was published by Sharkmob AB, whereas Bloodlines 2 was being made by Hardsuit Labs, although like we just mentioned, that is no longer the case. Yeah, it just seems like Bloodlines 2 is having enough development issues of its own that we cannot blame these events on this completely different game made by a separate studio. As for the future of Bloodlines 2, from what I understand, swapping developers is a not so insignificant issue. I don't know. It feels like this could very well be a game that ends up getting stuck in development hell. That's certainly a possibility, and maybe at some point in the future, Paradox has another revisit as to whether or not they should cancel the game, and they come away saying yes. I'm not hoping for that at all, but you know, you get a game put together and then you just fire the developer and give it to another studio. I would imagine there could be some pretty significant issues with that, but we'll have to wait and see. I am, of course, hoping for the best. Apparently, there is a new Splinter Cell in the works. Not a remaster, not a remake, but a whole new game. According to development sources, a new mainline entry has entered production at one of Ubisoft's many studio locations. Even though it is early, they say that the game may be officially revealed at some point next year. This would be the first major new Splinter Cell since Blacklist released in 2013. Last year, Ubisoft did announce another Splinter Cell project, but that turned out to be VR only, which is disappointing. We've also had Splinter Cell integrations into some other Tom Clancy games, but that's not exactly what fans of Sam Fisher are looking for. We want a new dedicated game. Now, I am interested to learn more, though I can't help but wonder exactly what we should expect. Ubisoft has proven fairly dedicated to this open world formula in recent years. I don't know if I can imagine them releasing a linear, story-driven title, which is what Splinter Cell traditionally was. Would they actually make that kind of game in 2022 or beyond? My money's on no, and that this will probably end up being an open or at least semi-open world with a focus on stealth and maybe hacking. So basically Watch Dogs, which already exists. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna get with this game. Maybe it'll just be Watch Dogs, but with more night vision and wetsuits. I am open to being surprised, and honestly, even if they did just apply the Ubisoft open world formula to Splinter Cell, I would probably enjoy that too. My time with Far Cry 6 this month has made it abundantly clear I am not over the formula of Ubisoft open world games, not as much as many other people may be. So if the game is just called Splinter Cell Online with 500,000 collectibles and clearing camps and stealthing around through air ducts, I don't know, I'm sure I would like it, honestly. God of War is coming to PC. Now, as angry as this appears to be making some hardcore PlayStation fans furious that Sony betrayed them, I'm thrilled. This game has been on my wish list for years, but I never got around to playing it, and now I can in gloriously high resolution, fidelity, and frame rate. The game will be coming to Steam on January 14th, 2022, and is expected will include a host of PC exclusive goodies. There's enhanced high fidelity visuals, 4K support, unlocked frame rate, higher resolution shadows, NVIDIA DLSS and reflex support, which will provide improved frame rates and lower latency. There will be controller customization for all of the usual gamepads, as well as customizable mouse and keyboard bindings, and also there will be 21:9 ultra-wide support for anyone with one of those big honking monitors. Yeah, dude, I am pumped. Everyone I know who played this game absolutely loved it, and like I said, I held off. I do own a PlayStation 4, but in the first 6 years of owning that thing, I used it for approximately 2 games, so eventually it just made its way into storage, and I haven't bothered taking it out. The truth is, just about everything I play is available on PC, and since it is my preferred platform, I just haven't bothered with console gaming in a long time. I don't even think I'm going to be getting a next-gen console, period, either one, Xbox or PlayStation. I just don't see the point, especially considering how many console exclusives keep on coming to the PC. I'll wait. There's enough good games to play at any one moment that I can wait a couple of years for Sony to get with the program. Microsoft is killing it though, with their first-party Xbox exclusives having PC parity launching day and date, so great work. I've got some good news and some bad news today about Elden Ring. First, the bad news, it's been delayed. The good news, only by 1 month. The game will now be launching on February 25th, 2022. The reason for the delay being, as they say, the depth and strategic freedom of the game exceeded initial expectations. Okay, our game is too cool, guys. We need some more time. I'm dying here. As always, with any game delays, take the time, make it as good as possible, and then release it. All is well. That's a good idea. Now, if you're itching to play a little earlier, though, there is going to be a closed network test taking place from November 12th to the 14th. You can register for this online. Unfortunately, though, the test is console exclusive. Come on, guys, we just talked about this. Seriously. Hopefully there will be a PC test in the future before launch, but yeah, this current upcoming network test in November is console only. Elden Ring is basically looking like an open world Dark Souls. I am very excited. I don't talk about the game often here on the channel, but Dark Souls is one of my all-time favorites favorites. I just love the game. I'm excited to see what FromSoft does with this newest Souls iteration. I don't care how much or little George R.R. Martin is involved in the writing or whatever. If I can fast roll and dodge attacks from big spooky monsters, I'll be happy. Last week, Activision came out with a big announcement revealing Ricochet, a new anti-cheat initiative for Call of Duty. They said that this would be a multifaceted approach to combating cheating. It will combine new server-side monitoring, enhanced investigations, and a kernel-level driver, all to help identify and stamp out cheaters. Then, a day after this announcement, the kernel driver was leaked and people immediately began reversing it. Now, from what little I know, this isn't as massive as a deal as it might sound, given that access to this kernel driver would have been available straight away as soon as the game launched. All this means is that the cheat makers have a head start, which isn't nothing, but they don't have access to something that they weren't eventually going to have access to anyways. All of the other facets of the Ricochet anti-cheat system are presumably still intact. Most of the specifics about this stuff goes beyond my current understanding, although this is something I would eventually like to learn more about, like how cheats and anti-cheat measures actually function, how they work, the inner workings of it all, you know? I think it'd be cool to actually know the specifics, but right now, I don't know much about the specifics. What I do know, though, is that playing against cheaters in multiplayer games really sucks. So anything that can be done to keep them at bay or at least limit their numbers makes me happy. Strictly from a fair play perspective, like it sucks if you're really into one of these online competitive games and you just can't be sure if the player who killed you did it fairly, whether they were a better shot, more situationally aware, had a faster reaction time, or did they just pay for and install some software that let them see you through walls and auto track your movements. This kernel level access stuff does sound kind of junky, but apparently it's fairly common with anti-cheats nowadays from what I've heard. I don't know the specifics, but just like, if you guys could stop cheaters in online competitive games, that would make me happy. All right, so in some other news this week, I want to talk about a few things. First off, Ubisoft's upcoming open world extreme sports game Riders Republic is launching next week. However, you can try the game yourself for free right now. Trial week is running from now until October 27th, and it's basically a timed demo that lets you play the game for a total of 4 hours. Now, whether that's 1 hour a day for 4 days, a 4-hour binge, or any other configuration is up to you. Either way, you've got 4 hours of total play time to try the game out. However Riders Republic ends up turning out, I love that they're doing this. Demos or free trial periods are something that I fully support. If the game is good, it gives people a chance to see that for themselves instead of relying on videos or streams. If the game is bad, well, they can also see that for themselves. This does make me think as well that Ubisoft is fairly confident in the title, because why else would you let people try it for free? I would assume that they think it's in a good spot if they're giving us this kind of access. And there's some pretty cool ideas with this one. You know, it's a seamless open world apparently that blends various real world locations into one massive map, and you can just go around doing extreme sports stuff. You'll bike, you'll snowboard, you can wingsuit. There's going to be a variety of different types of races that you can compete in, and it is a multiplayer game where you will see other people in the world doing other stuff as well. It all sounds pretty cool. I don't think I've played an extreme sports game since like the first couple of Tony Hawk's and SSX. Feels like I'm due, so I'm going to spend some time with this one. I'll probably check out the trial week for that free 4-hour window, and then maybe cover it when it launches as well. We'll see. It sounds pretty cool. It could be good. I hope it's good. And speaking of things I hope are good, Starfield, yes, Bethesda's Starfield, got a new trailer this week, although don't get too excited. There was zero like real gameplay. This was more of a lore story and some artwork for the game's setting, which is called the Settled Systems. So the game takes place in the year 2330. It's in a small pocket of the Milky Way galaxy, roughly 50 light years away from our solar system. And the video, which is like a minute, 20 seconds, just touches on some high-level stuff. They talk about the game's two main factions, this war that took place 20 years prior to the game's start, and kind of what the current state of things are. You know, it's just, again, it's like high-level story, backstory stuff. I am a big fan of Bethesda RPGs, jank and all. I'm just happy to see anything that they've got to show for this game. I like Fallout. I love Elder Scrolls. So to see them trying to take what they've learned with those games and then bring that formula out into into space. Yes, please. I am pumped. Next, we've got a new video for Halo Infinite. In this, they went into some pretty cool details about all of the various features and settings that they've put together for the PC version of the game. We've got graphics and performance tweaking, support for ultra-wide, keybind customization. They cover the game's anti-cheat, cross-play between all of the various platforms, as well as cross-communication. There's going to be full LAN support and a few other things. It all looks so freaking awesome. I am beyond excited for Halo Infinite. Most of the stuff I cover about on my videos are stuff I'm interested in and excited for, but Halo Infinite is damn near the top of the list. Halo 1, 2, and 3 were some pretty big deals for me. Like, I loved the experiences that those games gave me. Playing through the story on legendary difficulty, LAN parties with my friends, some of my first experiences with online competitive multiplayer. I've got great memories with the Halo franchise, but I kind of stepped away once I really got into PC gaming. Halo Infinite does seem to be coming together nicely, but on top of that, I just don't think I could go back to playing FPS with a controller. I'm just so used to and so comfortable with mouse and keyboard. So the fact that Infinite is launching day one on the PC, for me, is great news. And the last big story from this past week is about Final Fantasy XIV's upcoming Endwalker expansion. There was a ton of new details released. They showcased some updates for every new job in the game, along with showing off the first dungeon and some new zones that are coming with the new expansion. I am still not super familiar with Final Fantasy XIV, so most of this stuff flies over my head, but I did want to let you guys know there is some cool looking stuff that was revealed last week, and it's worth checking out. Just go ahead and Google Endwalker Media Tour and you'll get a bunch of information. And now on to the new game launches for the week. First, we've got Elyon, the theme park MMO. This came out on October 19th. It's the action combat MMO that kind of checks all of the expected content boxes for a generic theme park game, for PvE and PvP, dungeons, raids, arenas, all the stuff you expect. It does get compared quite a bit to Terra. Apparently the combat systems are fairly similar. The game is free to play if you're interested in checking it out, although at the moment I should let you know reviews are mixed, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, the game seems fine. Some people seem to really like it. It's not groundbreaking. Graphically, it looks a little old, and it seems to be retreading a lot of the ground that a lot of MMO fans have treaded quite a bit in the past. It is still early days though. We'll give it time for people to really sink their teeth in before we get some solid, well-informed impressions. Sands of Aura came out as well. This is an open world action-adventure game. The developer says it has Souls-like combat, but from an isometric perspective. There's also this focus on exploration of this fantasy Twilight world. It looks pretty neat. It just came out as of this recording into Steam's early access, and I do want to give this one a look, so I would stay tuned for some more coverage here. House of Ashes is coming out this week. Reviews just came in. Unfortunately, these don't look amazing. I'm seeing a lot of 6 and 7s out of 10. This is the most recent installment in the Dark Pictures anthology, a series of these story-driven, kind of choose-your-own-adventure-styled horror games. This one is set at the close of the Iraq War, where a group of soldiers accidentally unearthed a buried Sumerian temple, and as you expect, things go poorly. And then finally, of course, like I just mentioned, Riders Republic has a trial week going on right now, so if you're keen to learn more about the game, you've got 4 hours to check it out. Why not do so? And with that, that is a wrap for this week's news. Before we go though, I do want to quickly touch on some of the plans that I have for content here. Beyond this weekly news show and the occasional video talking about some upcoming games that I'm interested in, I am thinking about doing some more deep dives and more extensive coverage, possibly even reviews for some new releases. I've been dumping just a ton of hours into a few different games recently, thinking that I would do some sort of big coverage on them that just never ended up coming together. I played over 100 hours of Guild Wars 2 recently, at least 50 hours of Far Cry 6. Last week, I spent most of my free time with Riftbreaker, which is awesome, by the way. I recommend checking that out. A very cool base building wave defense game with some like hack and slash and RPG elements. It's a pretty neat game. But I haven't put any of this stuff into video form. Like, I haven't made videos out of any of it. So I would like to start doing that. I'm not sure it's going to happen for all of these games that I just mentioned playing a lot of, but maybe a few. More so though, going forward, I think I would like to start trying to put together this kind of content in addition to the stuff that we've been doing. All of this is to say more videos are coming. I want them to be good, interesting, informative, helpful, and good. Did I say good? I want them to be good. But yeah, when they come out, let me know what you guys think. But as for today's video, that's going to do it for this week's PC Gaming News Recap. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoy the content. Appreciate your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.